College football has always lived in a state of motion, but rarely has that motion felt as relentless, as disorienting, and as transformative as it does right now. For decades, the sport relied on traditions that barely shifted from one generation to the next. Eligibility rules were clear, scholarships followed familiar timelines, and the relationship between athletes and institutions existed within long-understood boundaries. That world is gone. In its place stands a version of college athletics that is redefining itself almost in real time, shaped by courtrooms as much as locker rooms, by policy debates as much as playbooks. Few coaches sit closer to the center of that evolution than Notre Dame's Marcus Freeman, and when he speaks about where the sport is headed, it carries the weight of someone tasked with leading young men through uncertainty while still competing at the highest level. The seismic shift began last summer when the approval of the NCAA settlement in the House versus NCAA lawsuit fundamentally altered the financial landscape of college sports. For the first time, Division I schools were permitted to directly share revenue with their athletes, acknowledging in official policy what had long been an unspoken reality. Players are central economic drivers of the enterprise. That settlement also opened the door for back pay to athletes who competed between 2016 and 2024, a retroactive recognition that sent administrators scrambling, compliance offices recalibrating, and coaches rethinking how they sell both opportunity and stability to recruits. It was not just a financial adjustment, it was a philosophical one, signaling that the athlete-institution relationship had crossed a point of no return. Yet, even as schools began grappling with revenue-sharing models, another issue loomed on the horizon, one that could reshape roster construction, player development, and competitive balance just as dramatically. Eligibility, long governed by a patchwork of red shirts, medical waivers, COVID exceptions, and appeals, is now under renewed scrutiny. At the heart of the discussion is a proposal that sounds simple but carries enormous implications, the so-called 5-for-5 rule. Under this model, athletes would be allowed to play 5 full seasons over a 5-year span, eliminating the need for red shirts, special waivers, or complicated eligibility gymnastics. 5 years, 5 seasons, clean, direct, and radically different from the system coaches and players have navigated for generations. Freeman's reaction to the idea is revealing, not because it is controversial, but because of how grounded it is in practicality and empathy. From his perspective, the proposal represents clarity in a system that has become increasingly convoluted. He sees value not only in what it gives players, but in how it simplifies the daily decisions coaches are forced to make. In his view, allowing athletes to play 5 seasons without worrying about burning eligibility on a snap here or a special teams rep there liberates everyone involved. It removes the constant mental arithmetic of whether a player has appeared in too many games, whether a late-season cameo will cost them a future year, or whether development should be delayed for bureaucratic reasons rather than football ones. For Freeman, it's about letting players play and letting coaches coach without the fear of wasting something that can never be reclaimed. That simplicity, however, masks a series of complicated questions that the NCAA and its member institutions have yet to answer. Eligibility has never existed in a vacuum. It is intertwined with scholarships, academic progress, and the broader mission of higher education. Traditionally, scholarships have been structured around graduation timelines, often covering 4 years toward a degree. A 5th season introduces gray areas that cannot be ignored. What happens when a player has already graduated but still has a season left to play? Does the scholarship extend beyond the degree? Is it restructured? Is it replaced by some form of revenue-sharing agreement? Freeman acknowledges these questions without pretending to have all the answers, emphasizing that each institution will need to examine how its scholarship model aligns with any new eligibility framework. Whether the NCAA steps in with standardized guidelines or leaves it to schools to define their own approach remains an open question, and one that could create disparities if not handled carefully. From Freeman's standpoint, the logistical challenges are real, but they are not reasons to dismiss the proposal outright. Instead, he frames them as problems to be solved in service of athletes. His focus consistently returns to what is best for young people navigating an increasingly complex system. The idea of 5 guaranteed seasons removes anxiety, reduces guesswork, and offers players a clearer sense of control over their careers. For coaches, it streamlines planning and fosters honesty. No more half measures, no more holding players back simply to preserve eligibility that might never be fully used. Everything becomes more intentional, more transparent, and more aligned with actual development rather than administrative caution. For Notre Dame, Freeman doesn't envision the program undergoing a philosophical overhaul if the rule is adopted. The Irish already operate with a long-term view of development, emphasizing readiness, accountability, and fit. The difference, he suggests, would be in the absence of artificial constraints. Decisions about whether to hold a player out, ease them into a role, or push them forward would still be made with care, but without the looming fear that a single snap could derail a 5-year plan. The emphasis would shift from preserving eligibility to maximizing opportunity, ensuring that every year a player spends in the program is meaningful and aligned with both personal and team goals. While eligibility dominates much of the conversation about the sport's future, it is not the only area where rules are being rewritten. The transfer portal, already one of the most disruptive forces in modern college football, is undergoing its own recalibration. Beginning this January, the NCAA has moved to a single 14-day transfer window, replacing the previous system that included both winter and spring portals. The change reflects a growing recognition that constant movement, while empowering for athletes, can destabilize rosters, academic progress, and even mental health. Freeman has been vocal in his support of consolidating the window, not out of a desire to limit player freedom, but to create structure where chaos had begun to dominate. His stance on the timing of that window is notably measured. Freeman understands the arguments on both sides, acknowledging that conferences differed in their preferences, with some advocating for post-spring movement and others pushing for a winter window. Each option carries trade-offs, affecting academic schedules, depth chart clarity, and off-season planning. What mattered most for Freeman was not when the window occurred, but that there was only one. A single, defined period allows players to make decisions with full information, allows coaches to plan with greater certainty, and reduces the perpetual state of roster flux that had become the norm. Taken together, these discussions paint a picture of a sport at a crossroads, searching for balance between freedom and structure, between opportunity and order. Freeman's perspective stands out because it is neither reactionary nor resistant to change. He does not romanticize the past, nor does he blindly embrace every new proposal. Instead, he approaches these shifts with the mindset of someone responsible for developing people, not just winning games. His comments reflect an understanding that rules are not abstract concepts. They shape real lives, real careers, and real futures. For Notre Dame, a program steeped in tradition yet competing in an era defined by disruption, that balance is especially delicate. Freeman's leadership is rooted in adaptability, in the willingness to evolve without losing identity. Whether it's navigating revenue sharing, adjusting to new eligibility models, or managing a streamlined transfer portal, his message remains consistent. Clarity benefits everyone. When players know the rules, when coaches can plan without loopholes and exceptions, and when institutions align their policies with their stated values, the sport moves closer to a sustainable future. College football will continue to change. Court rulings will reshape economics, proposals will challenge long-held assumptions, and power dynamics will shift in ways that are impossible to fully predict. But voices like Freeman's offer a steadying influence, reminding stakeholders that amid all the upheaval, the core responsibility remains the same. It's about young people chasing opportunity, about programs building environments that foster growth, and about a game finding a way to evolve without losing its soul. In that sense, the debates over 5-for-5 eligibility and a single transfer window are not just policy discussions, they are reflections of a sport trying to define who it is and who it wants to be in a rapidly changing world.